Okay, so normally our Montessori meetings are me sort of talking about the philosophy of Montessori. We have parent education nights that concentrate on the areas of the classroom, practical life, sensorial, language, math, that sort of stuff, and I concentrate on philosophy. But of course, being that we are remote, I will be touching base on how we sort of came up with our plan and on what we are doing and what we will continue to do. District makes a decision by Monday on whether we are remote for second quarter or not. So let's see, percent mode. Okay, so first I'm just going to talk about like the charge that was before us with remote learning in Montessori. I think we all were a little skeptical and nervous because it was like, how do we provide Montessori lessons and work remotely when Montessori is such a hands-on way of learning? Everything we do, the student is able to touch. Our senses are super important in Montessori, and we thought, how do we provide that in a remote setting when we're learning like this, right, on the computer? And another one of our charges were, how do we equip parents with resources and supplies to do this remote learning at home? Another big charge before us was, how do we train teachers? They worked diligently over the summer to get Google certified, to learn a whole new process on Google Classroom, Seesaw, all of which we were not used to before. Some classes, in a traditional setting may have used Google Classroom here and there, but we certainly did not do that. And technology is not huge in a Montessori classroom. So even, for teachers, it was challenging to get used to this technology. So that was sort of the charge before us. So how do we provide Montessori lessons and work remotely? Well, we thought we're still going to try to do small group lessons. That seems to be working. I know when everybody got technology, we knew it was going to be a week or two of some schedule changes to see what really impacted the students the most, and how we could be more flexible with parents if that didn't work out. We also thought those one-on-one lessons were still very important to have, and it can take up a lot of time. And it also takes time out of the whole class, right? Because if you're meeting one-on-one with each student, that means there are 27 other students who are not meeting at that time. But we thought it was still important, and teachers should still be trying to find a way to meet one-on-one with each student. So again, if we have a small group lesson or one-on-one lessons, the main, responsibility is that the child then should follow up at home. So sort of like the environment we have in the class, you receive a lesson and the child would then try to do that work or follow up work at home. The benefit of this model is that we're still trying to adhere to that, to the independence of the Montessori philosophy. Again, where a child gets a lesson and they are independently going off and doing work. The challenge is that it certainly puts a lot of stress and responsibility on the parent. And if a parent is not familiar with works, if they are working, from home, if they're working remotely, even if you're a stay-at-home mom or dad, it's still challenging. And I think that is the biggest challenge that faces us is sort of that parent responsibility in all of this. So For the second question, how can we equip parents with resources and supplies? So of course we have all of our online resources. I will send this PowerPoint to everybody because one of my slides has a list of online resources that some of your teachers may have shared, but I have a few that they may have not. So online resources like Seesaw, like Google Classroom, such as that, and also our take-home kits. Depending on what the district decides for Q2, certainly we are already preparing to put kits together if we are remote again. They will probably be a little more robust than our first kits. I probably will be purchasing a little more supplies than kind of having the paper handmade. Depending on the turnaround of those and when I get the decision from district. So we hope that you have utilized and appreciated the take-home kits. Again, the challenges with that are, getting parents used to the idea of independence. Now, certainly with our 3s and 4s, we have a tablet, and I'm not saying 3 and 4-year-old parents should be putting their child on the tablet and walking away, but certainly, I think with 1st through 3rd, our lower elementary students, those students should be equipped to be fairly independent throughout the day. I think we underestimate their ability to use that technology and to be independent. And honestly, and in the classroom, they're very independent. So I think that's a challenge is getting the parents to sort of used to the idea of having their child be independent. So again, in the lower L classroom, the teacher's really considered a collaborator with the student. We follow the student, and that of course is a little more challenging when we're in a remote situation. And that I think can cause some nervousness from parents as well, as opposed to a traditional classroom where student and teacher are sitting down with a textbook, flipping through. It's a little harder for the teacher to sort of follow the needs of the student in a remote setting. But again, that's why we sort of call that lower L teacher the collaborator. I put in here, what else do you need? And if you can think of that when we come to questions in a few minutes. Again, when we find out what we're doing, I really want to know what parents want and need if we continue to stay remote. So these, of course, are all the tools we are using. Again, I will send this out. Each of these is a link. So we have Seesaw, Google Classroom. Second Step, I order new Second Step kits. Second Step is like a social emotional program that teachers will start using. It bodes really well with our Grace and Courtesy in Montessori. We are also using Inner Explorer. So hopefully some of you have seen that. Inner Explorer is a meditation device that the district uses. And I think it again bodes really well with our Montessori philosophy. It's all about mindfulness, and it's usually just for primary, probably 3 to 4 minutes of being aware of your body, and for lower L, it's usually about 5 to 8 minutes. And then of course we're also using Zoom. Some of our classes are using Zoom. So again, these are all links after I send this out that you can feel free to use. We have the 100 ideas for Montessori early childhood students at home. Lots of practical life ideas on that sheet. There's also 100 ideas for Montessori elementary students at home. The American Montessori Society is really a great resource. I use them weekly. They have great things on their website. There's amazing things from the virtual museum tours, virtual field trips, find your virtual park. That's all about parks, our national park system. And so some of your teachers may have provided you with links from that as well. Okay, so now we're just going to sort of leave it open for any questions, suggestions. I really want to hear from you on what you guys think is working, what you need from us, what you need from teachers. If, again, we go this remote setting for Q2. Does anyone have any questions, comments?
So I had a question.
Yes.
So in our class, a lot of the children are not necessarily at home for when their lessons are happening. And so with the packets, and then some of the parents are actually teaching at the same time. So in our packets, because we have the packs for at home, for Montessori learning at home, there's sometimes lessons that are coming out of those bags. If we can get a list ahead of time when we're going to need materials out of the bags so that they can go with the kids wherever they are and they can be prepared in advance, that would, I think, be the most helpful thing for parents, especially when they're sending their kids to other learning environments. Because sometimes the kids don't feel as engaged when they don't have the same tools that the other kids have. And I don't want anyone to feel like that, or any caregiver to feel like that.
So maybe like a week in advance, or at least a couple days in advance, hey, we're going to be working on this lesson, have these materials ready if you can.
Yeah, like maybe like a 2-day, like Wednesdays and Fridays. So like, Friday going into next week, at least for Monday and Tuesday, you're going to need this. And then maybe send another list on Wednesday saying, until Friday, you're going to need this. Something like that. Like, I'm not saying like a daily, everyday pop up, but like at least 2 or 3 days, that might be helpful.
Okay. And I certainly have heard that concern from a few parents who, sometimes the child is at grandma and grandpa's on Mondays and Wednesdays, and, carrying this tote bag around isn't necessarily, that's not your first need, right? Do they have fresh clothes on, or, you know what I mean? Do we have food? Sometimes that Montessori kit isn't the top priority. So, okay. I hear that. Thank you, Carmen. Anybody else?
On that note, the other classes as well. So if art class could also, if they need putty that week, let the kids know in advance to have that.
Okay. Has the few classes that I popped in art were kind of utilizing what we have in our environment? Is she kind of asking for more now?
The two that my son has attended, they've both asked for materials from the bag.
Okay, from the bag though. Okay, yep. So that's good. Okay,
yep.
So just good. But we still need a little more advanced notice on what we're going to be using from the bag. Okay, great. That would go with anybody else.
I have a question. I know Montessori follows the child and everything, and this is our first year here. We were at Small World before. But I'm a little confused about the Seesaw assignments. Are they something Will can choose to do if he wants to? Are they supposed to be done by a certain time? I just wasn't sure. Like when they put up the assignments for the kids to work on, is it choice? They get to do them if they want to, or should I be making sure that they get done?
I would say it's recommended that they do follow up with what is posted on Seesaw. Is there a time limit? Not necessarily. If the teacher says, hey, I'm giving you a lesson, and then there's this resource on Seesaw that you can use, I wouldn't say, hey, it has to be done within 5 hours. But if you get it done sort of throughout the week, I think that's recommended. Because again, that's where that kind of follow up is coming from.
Yeah, because I by the end of the online time with the teacher, he's usually pretty antsy at sitting at the tablet. So
correct. If you can get maybe one follow up, after dinner, before dinner, something like that, that would be great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to piggyback on that because my Aria is very particular, like she's listening to what you say. And so I struggle to get her to engage in IXL or Seesaw after class, just like Amanda. And today, for example, I said, okay, your class is done between 8 o'clock and 11. We need to get some Seesaw done. And she said, Miss Missy said we can do Seesaw, not that we have to do Seesaw. And I was like, well, you're correct. But we'll find those for a reason, and we're going to get to them. Like I need a little bit more help with what is expected, and because I'm having a really hard time getting that buy-in. Because it's not what she's used to. Yeah. It's not what she wants to do. It's, and when I sit down there next to her and we log into IXL, I mean, she's on board, but for the most part, like Amanda, when she's done with class, she's like, I got something else. I got somewhere else to be, something else to do, so I just need a little help there.
So maybe more like clarifying language from the teacher and sort of setting more expectations for the students. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know about everybody else's kids, but mine.
She will go by what is said.
She's literally go by what is said and hold me to it.
Okay. So more expectations and more exact language. And I think that's a typical, especially primary, child response. Oh, can you take off your jacket? Well, yeah, but I don't want, you know what I mean? Like it has to be, no, you need to take off your jacket right now. Yeah. Okay, good. And certainly I always tell parents when they reach out to me, having those conversations with teachers is extremely important. And we have been talking about being flexible with our parents. So certainly I don't think anybody reaching out to a teacher saying, hey, this just doesn't work for us. They should be more than equipped to say, what can I do to make it work for you? And what can I do to make it work for this student?
And I will say that Miss Missy has. I just hadn't had an opportunity to communicate that to her since that was what happened today. So since Amanda brought it up, I thought, maybe I'm not the only one who's experiencing that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. I just like to give, just as a general statement, I like to give the teacher an opportunity to pivot and to see if they respond. And then if they don't respond, that's usually when I step in. Because as obviously a former teacher, having my principal and boss come to me and saying, I never heard from this parent before. I don't know where this is coming from. So I'm just saying in general, but yes, I think more exact language and specific expectations for the students can be good. Because of course, like you said, they probably log off and say, school's done. I don't have to do anything. Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, Miss Lisa.
Yes.
I was going to say to kind of help my wife, because she's really running point on this, which I'm thankful for. But I was involved in a discussion today working from home because my daughter was resisting not wanting to do schoolwork. And so we kind of made the statement, the relationship to her to say, well, mom is actually the teacher assistant right now in this world. And so I don't know for other parents, but if it comes from the teacher so that kids can hear that in this current environment, so empowering the parents that they are the teacher's assistant and that they are somewhat deputized as saying, we understand what's going on. We're in communication. We know about the Seesaw and IXL and all of the works that need to be done. I think it helps parents and children understand the boundaries and the expectations. It may go, Aria seems to get that, and she could make that connection a little bit better today to talk about that.
Yeah, and I did make it a point to tell her too, because Miss Missy and I have had some conversation about that, and I have asked her specifically, okay, what is my place? where do I belong in this scenario? And she's, explained to me, and it seems like she's really working hard to involve me as little as possible and have her work as independently as possible, which I definitely appreciate. But when Miss Missy is not on the screen, you know what I mean? That was the conversation that we had today. And so I had to explain to her, when Miss Missy's in the room, she's your teacher and she's always your teacher. But when she's not in the room, it's my job to help you get the things done that need to get done. And so that's kind of how the conversation went today. And she did seem to understand that a little bit. We had to be like, like just like Miss Lisa and Miss, Lindsay from Small World. And, so that seemed to make a little bit more sense to her. Well, at the same time, we'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Yeah.
Unless Miss Missy says, because, right now she's the queen bee,
Well, that's good. But I think that's sort of the hardest for parents, because obviously our children act differently, around us than they do with teachers. And especially even if you're sitting there and it's a remote experience, it can be different. And, that's great that they're then listening to the teacher as they're remote. But then again, when that computer shuts off, they're like, I don't see my teacher anymore. So therefore I can. So yeah, that's a transition that's probably hard for some of our students and children to learn, is that no, I as the parent then have to help you with this for follow-up. So we certainly can have teachers, implement that sort of language as well into their lessons. Even though you may not see me, your parents are responsible for being the teacher when I'm not here, if that helps. So thank you. Does anyone else have questions, concerns? If I don't know what the district will be doing, but if we are remote for this second quarter, how can we help you better? Were you satisfied with the kits? What else would you like to see in there? Of course, I was hearing, more in advance how we can utilize the kits, right? So that's good. Anything else?
Yeah, so I have a question and then Karen has a question.
Okay.
So in order to reinforce the lessons that we're learning, is there a space or a place where we can get the lessons like that we've already had happen? Because I know that there's parents that aren't available during the times that we're having class, but I am available during class, but sometimes I would like to redo the same lesson. If there's something that I noticed that maybe Celeste was like questionable on or anything like that, I want to go over it again with her, but I want it to be presented the same way so that there's no variance. So is there any way that we can get like, I don't know, a recording or like a lesson plan, or I don't know, something where it's like instructional that we can reinforce the lessons? I don't know if that's possible, because I know there's a lot of repetition when they're in the classroom setting, but it's like zero repetition now that we're doing online school. So I'm just wondering if that's a possible thing.
So Carmen, I was under the impression that a lot of the teachers were recording lessons and putting it on Seesaw. So if that is not happening, that's certainly something that I can touch base with the teachers and make sure we are, let's say that we are doing a lesson on, pouring grains. There should be a recorded lesson of that posted to Seesaw or Google so that parents can use that as a resource.
They have a lesson in Seesaw, but it's not the lesson.
The same.
Yeah, it's not what we did in class. Like there is absolutely like the reinforcing the concept, but like if there were a way for them to say like go in this order, do this thing based on the things that are in their bags versus what we're seeing on Seesaw. Like it's not that it's not there, but it's different.
Different. Like they're using it from another source is what you're saying.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Good to know.
Okay, so my question is, we have really inconsistent people helping my daughter with, like, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's my mother-in-law, sometimes it's a babysitter. It's like all over the place. So is there like a resource that or a YouTube video that I could show them just explaining like Montessori in a nutshell? Because I understand it, but I don't think I could like technically convey it to that person. And also like what their role should be as like that helper person. Obviously she's really young, so she needs a lot of support. So it's a little different.
How old is your daughter, Karen?
3. She's 3. Yeah.
So funny that you say that. You know, normally the district has an enrollment fair the first weekend, I think, in December for the open enrollment period. So we are putting together like a 5 to 8 minute video, and what we're calling sort of the Montessori elevator chat. Right? If you meet somebody in the elevator, and we get this all the time, what is Montessori? You think, oh my gosh, I could talk to you for days about this. We are actually putting a video together. So when we have that together, hopefully within the next 3 weeks, I'll put it on the website, and then, you know, you can maybe show that to people. And it's, again, just sort of like the elevator chat. I think what I would stress most to those caregivers is that we are still trying to adhere to like the independence. However, again, those 3s and 4s are different, especially since we're learning on, you know, a tablet and technology. But Miss Missy came to me a couple weeks ago or last week and said, you know, I did this lesson on pouring grains, she said, and they all sat there for 25 minutes and poured grains. And I was like, what? That's awesome. So sometimes I think we as adults think they're less capable of what they are. But certainly I think with the 3s and 4s, having that eye, you know, in the area of where they are on that tablet, but yet when work is being presented, it's really hard as a caretaker, as a parent to be hands off. So I would sort of like recommend that. And, you know, usually our children are not shy about telling us what they need. So typically if they say, hey, I need help or I need something, and then of course, you know, step in. But I would say, let's try to have them as independent as possible, if I answered your question. But yes, that video that we will be done in hopefully 3 weeks will be a great resource for you. Any other questions, comments?
I just have a question. Miss Missy said in our, like, she said that next week we're going to start small group meetings instead of the like social group. What are the small group meetings?
So I think what she means by that is she has sort of kind of known, you know, getting to know the students now, and she'll probably pair them up in small groups according to what sort of lesson they need, if that makes sense, because that's kind of what we would be doing if we were in person. Like I notice this 3-year-old knows all of their numbers, and then we're going to put that student with a 4-year-old who also knows their numbers. So I would assume that's what she sort of means by that. And that can be different every day. So your student may be in a different small group lesson with different students every day.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
I can actually piggyback on that. My kids are in 3rd grade, and they were each assigned a 1st grader, and they have buddy meetings where they help that 1st grader work through those problems because they've already done those works, and they can help them get them where they need to be. And then my kids also have reading groups where there's 3 or 4 of them in there, and they all take a section of the book and they read it to each other, and they help each other work through those words that they may not understand or may not know. And for me, I love it so far. The little mini groups have been amazing because they can help the little kids with their stuff just like they would if they were in a classroom, and they still get that one-on-one connection, and they become friends with these kids that they've never met in person, which is great. So I'm thinking that's what you guys are going to start doing.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
It is. So far, we've had a lot of fun with it.
I think William would respond well to that. Some of the lessons, because he's been at Small World before this, it's kind of old hat for him. So I think that'll be fun to the new challenge that way.
And I think I should have put that in one of our charges is how do we create community, you know, in a remote setting, which community is huge in Montessori, even with our snack. You know, being able to choose when we want snack, who we want sometimes to have snack with, and that is a social aspect of our classroom. They are able to choose a work and walk around the room and chat when they want, which is great. And obviously we're mixed grade. So I love that, Nicole, to hear that from you, is that, you know, having those third years as mentors, because that's what they would be doing in the classroom as well. I love that. And then when we come back in person, those first years won't feel like, I don't know anybody in this classroom. They're going to say, that's my mentor. Or, you know, that's my helper. That's great. That's good to hear. Anybody? Yes. Oh, you're on mute. I unfortunately don't know how to tell you to get off of mute because I feel so bad for these. Wait, I can't unmute somebody.
You have to hover over the bottom with your mouse.
Now, as me being in charge, can I unmute somebody?
You should be able to go to the people. You see the little people sign?
All right, there. I had to use my mouse to do it. I don't know what's going on. Okay. So I think the question that I am curious about is, you know, for second quarter, I mean, I'm just being a realist here. I'm preparing to pretty much be at home with her for the rest of the year. So I'm curious what you have planned to order more Montessori materials for second quarter. I would like to know what you're thinking, because I have been on Amazon. I have been all over the place trying to find things that are a bit more conducive to the way that she likes or has been accustomed to learning. You know, and I would just kind of like to have an idea of what you're targeting. Now, obviously that, you know, is pending approval, but I'd really like to know what your thoughts are. And I know that's probably a hard question to answer because you have parents of all age groups here, but, you know, mine's in Miss Missy's class, and I'd really like to know what you're targeting.
So I think my first thought on that is, what sort of supplies do I need to buy that cannot be replicated by, you know, making it handmade, or like having our EAs, you know, printed off. That would be my first thought. Those are the sort of resources that I'd like to actually purchase. I came from Milwaukee Public Schools. My colleague is the Montessori implementer there, and they did purchase some items. So I actually set up a meeting with her to see, hey, what did you purchase? What are parents liking? What are teachers really using? What are teachers not using? So I'm going to be kind of going off that model as well. And now that we have some, you know, weeks of remote behind our belt, I'll certainly be consulting with the teachers saying, what do we really need to get in the hands of these students? And where should I be really investing and spending our money to put in these kits? So no, that's a good question. And that's still, and, you know, I was just talking today with our secretary, you know, if we go remote, when would our second pickup be, and how much time do I have to prepare? It's not a fast, you know, turnaround time. I know the students have stuff in their kits to probably last them a couple more weeks, but I certainly would want to get that second kit out if we go remote, you know, by mid-November. So I'm certainly working on what we need to put in those kits. And if there's something that you need, each teacher sort of did you know, had different stuff in their kit, but if there's something, hey, this movable alphabet on paper just isn't working for us. We need it laminated, or, tips like that we could really use. There's some items that I saw on the list where I thought, no, I'm not going to invest the money that way because it was like land and water forms. Well, that's sort of one lesson we don't really need, so I'm looking at what sort of materials that we can use and reuse in different sort of lessons too, if that makes sense. Yeah, an optional supply list, like a sort of like a suggested, hey, if you want to purchase these things, this would be a good investment of your money. Okay. I could certainly get one of those and have the teachers kind of put one together.
I did kind of, I don't know, like obviously when you purchase something through a school, it's different, but I did find a really cheap website that's cheaper than the Amazon one. It's called Pink Montessori.
Okay.
Like a few of the things that I was searching on Amazon for my son, even like the baby stuff, was just way cheaper on this Pink Montessori than it would be on Amazon, which I thought something to look into. But I was looking at like a few things for Christmas, but then I realized I'm like, some of this stuff we have, like that tower, it's just not
pink tower.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just a tower. Sure. Yeah. And as Montessori materials are often very expensive. It's when we open a lower elementary classroom, it costs the district between $20,000 and $25,000 just for materials. And they're just not made the way they used to be. When I first started as an assistant, we had a brown stairs that we had in that classroom for 10 years. And then we ordered a new one. And, it's like Christmas. You open it up, you're like, oh, like you don't even want the students touching it. And within like a week, it's chipped. It's like, no, we had that other one for like 20 years. How does this happen? So yeah, but thank you. I will look at Pink Montessori. Yeah, there are a lot of, kind of companies popping up since Montessori is becoming more popular, but certainly, and, that's another thing that you could probably talk to your teacher about. Hey, what's one resource? I think certainly for K-5s would be letters, cursive or regular sandpaper letters, and that movable alphabet. Movable alphabet it can span from K4 all the way to second or third grade, really, so that I think would be a good resource. And I know we unfortunately have the plastic movable alphabets, but the wood ones are great. But I would say for at home, the plastic movable alphabets would be great to get. Anything, or just like for Christmas or for like a holiday ideas, getting a subscription to like a National Geographic or like a nature magazine, something like that, I think would be great as well. So does anyone else? Questions, concerns?
I've got one that's actually on this topic, and I'll direct it to Carmen, put you on the spot. In the first PTA meeting, there was a place that sells Montessori goods mentioned that they talked about the PTA doing a sponsored event. I don't know if I'm using the right language, but an event that would benefit the school. Like they have a catalog full of Montessori items. Is that something that the PTA is looking to? Small hands. Yes. Thank you, Kimberly. Because I did get the catalog and it was wonderful. Yeah. And I'm thinking, should I wait to do this so that the money goes to the school, or pull the trigger?
Go ahead and do it now. It is something that we're trying to do, but that would be something for the spring. So that this is something you can do for the fall or like Christmas or whatever. And then I think it's far enough apart that it would be okay. Like you wouldn't feel bad still giving to the school, but it would be something worthwhile having now, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do have another question. This one's for Lisa. So in trying to be as hands-off as possible, both of my kids, at times they need breaks from the class, and the teachers have been very accommodating with that, but I'm struggling with how much do I redirect and redirect.
Push.
And then
Yeah.
in some cases, the only way they're going to sit is if I'm engaged in the activity too, which I know I don't want to be, but I don't know where to draw the line.
Well,
These
yes.
are 3 and
I
5.
Yeah, you have the 3 and 5, right? And not saying, but some of our children can be, can kind of play off that too, right? Oh, I need a break. I need a break. And I don't have a great answer for that. I'm sorry. And if you know your child the best, kind of when to push them and when not to. And if you need that, if you think they need that extra gentle reminder from the teacher, no, you just had a break 10 minutes ago. You need to, and I certainly have heard that language, when a couple students have said, I'm done, I'm leaving now. And the teacher's like, nope, this is your lesson. This is your lesson time. You're going to stay in the lesson. So, if they need gentle reminders from the teacher, you certainly maybe can put that in the chat box. We don't want to push them too far where they're not, comfortable. And this is just a whole new world on these little screens and tablets. It is just so different from what we do. But again, I do think we have to be careful on, not letting them, we certainly have to be in control most of the time and, telling them what they need to be doing. Because this is still school. This is your teacher, and this is still school. We should be present most of the time that our teacher is there. So maybe, using that sort of language. I know this doesn't feel like school, but this is school. This is your responsibility. This is your job. This is what my job is. Sitting next to you as you're doing your job. And this is then, this is what your job is as a student. And it can be hard sometimes, but we have to get through it. So I don't know if that's helpful. I don't know what I'd be doing if I had to be at home with my own children. It's hard.
I'll start there at least. So thank you.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Anyone else? So just so you know, when district decides what we are doing for second quarter, I am developing a parent sort of questionnaire that will go out hopefully by next Wednesday or Thursday to you, because we should know by Monday what's happening for second quarter. And you certainly can, I want you to be honest. I want to make this the best possible situation we can for you and for our students. So I certainly need that feedback. So don't ever feel like, I had a parent email me that she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, this is sort of, last year I was dealing with a lot of teacher issues and student issues. Now it's mostly, kind of talking parents off the ledge. So I get it. I understand. So don't ever hesitate to reach out to me or, your child's teacher and let them know what you need. So yeah, so look for that. Hi guys. I saw you this morning. So look for that survey that comes out next week. And then hopefully we'll be hearing by Monday what's going to happen for second quarter. I was very hopeful at the beginning of the school year. I was sure that we were coming back. I spent hours creating a plan on how we can socially distance in this building. I honestly don't know what's going to happen with the numbers the way they are now. I am confident that we'll get back at some point, that we will get back at some point. So I don't know. We shall see. Does anybody else have questions, comments?
Just take a deep breath and take it one day at a time.
I know it. I'm telling you, yeah.
That's what we do. Like yesterday. Yesterday was just a bad day for us learning. And at 1:00, I said, oh, we're done. And we went outside. And that was just it. And I'm like, I'm done. Because and I texted their teacher and I said, Diana, look, it's a bad day. we're done. And she's like, okay, finish tomorrow, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. It's every day. Every day we'll just get done what we can get
We
done.
just speed through the whole work, and if we can't get it done, we don't. We just do it tomorrow.
Right.
So,
That's right.
exactly.
Sometimes you have to set realistic expectations, right? And we had our staff meeting this week, and I even told staff, I was like, go outside, take a walk. I want to see what, like, I had a teacher come in. She's like, your eyes are red. Are you sick? I'm like, no, I'm not used to staring at this computer for 10 hours a day. So I'm making myself at lunch, get up, go into our garden, walk around the property. So yes, we're doing what we can to get through realistic expectations, right? Yeah. But I have to say, I really am pleased. I think I try to pop in every classroom every day, because that's usually what we do when we're in person. And the lessons that I'm seeing, I think are great. And I think our teachers, for the most part, are doing a really great job. And I know they are overwhelmed, but I do think they're doing a great job. And I'm super, super thankful for them and everything that they have had to learn, just over the 6 months. I'm really proud of them. So, and if you are feeling any different, please let me know.
I just want to say the teachers are doing great, and Celeste loves the tablet. She's mastered the tablet. I'm like almost afraid every day to see what she sent when I look in her journal, because she does it when I'm not, like, trying to give the independence. She does it when I'm not necessarily standing over her. So I have no idea what Miss Missy sees every day. I know she makes her songs every day. I know that they're being sent, and I'm like, okay, it's all good. But she is absolutely enamored with seeing her friends on screen, and she loves every minute of being on there. And the Inner Explorer is super, super cool. So if there is a way, that's one of my questions, if there is a way for us to log into it when they're not in class, if we could figure out how to link to that classroom link, because I know they're by classroom, I think. It looks like it's her class that's in there. I don't know if that's possible. It may
Yes.
be a license issue, so if it's not, it's not. But if it is possible, I did see that they have an app in for my phone, but I don't know how to log her into what she's doing, because she loves that little song that they sing at the end of the little.
Yes. And
So,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that parents can access that, on their own without the teacher. Okay. I forgot, but in my staff meeting, I had like 5 minutes for the staff to do a mindfulness, like a high school exercise, just on breathing and stuff like that. So yes, I love that Inner Explorer. But yes, they should be able to access it without the teacher. So I'll make sure she gets that to you. Good. And yes, I heard her song yesterday. Oh, so great. I love it.
Isn't it just in the class link? I think it's just
Is it in class link? So is it on the tablets? And is it a?
You know what? Now I'm second guessing myself, because I know it's.
I'll look for it. I didn't know that it was there. I'll look for it if it's in there.
I could be wrong.
Adam, you teach in the district. Can't parents access it?
I thought they could. Am I like I'll admit I'm not certain myself. Like that, I know. I believe they can access it, but it might require like inviting them through the student account. It might be kind of like Google Classroom, where you can add the student and then you invite the guardian. And I think it might be something like that.
Okay. So Nicole, you looked and there was no app on your tablet or Chromebook. Okay. I will put that in my staff newsletter this week, and hopefully then you can have access to that. Yeah, it's a great resource.